I know Kung Fu.
Show me.
You are the new student. Come closer.
You're listening to the Kung Fu Podcast presented by James Still.
I don't care if it's Muhammad, Imard, Bruce Lee.
And Steve Newby.
This is the original 5 Fingers of Death right here.
But my hands are registered as lethal weapons. That means we get into a fight, I accidentally kill you, I go to jail.
Yeah, is that why I can hear you breathing? Because you're
Probably.
Your
But
position of the mic.
I've got bad sinuses anyway. I sound like bloody Darth Vader.
So as I'm talking, I can hear you breathing when you're listening.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if you can hear that on the playback.
No, I can't. No.
Okay.
Right. We good to go? Are we?
We are good to go. Okay. I'm good to go. We have a very sunny day here in Canada. We are on a not a lockdown, but an advisable situation where we should be locked down. Oh. And so we haven't been going out. Although I went a walk yesterday.
Yeah. And you saw a woodpecker. Yes.
Yeah, I saw the woodpecker.
It was mesmerising.
I'm sure. Yeah, someone sent back says, "Here's a squirrel." Obviously, I haven't got a great camera. It was only my phone. I just videoed it just to send it to different people.
Are you hijacking my intro to the show?
No, you carry on now.
Okay.
Let's.
Right.
Okay. A one, two, three, four. Go.
Hello, people. Welcome to the Kung Fu Podcast. My name's James Still, and as ever, I'm joined with my teacher, Mr. Steve Newby, all the way from Canada. Hi, Steve.
Hi.
Hi.
How's things today?
Great, wonderful, marvelous. I'm just in my in my little office in my house, looking at the beautiful sunset. So let's get on with it. We're on pod 12. This is, and we have been droning on a bit on the previous podcasts. I've noticed they've been going on a bit too long. But I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So
please let us know. Let us know.
Yeah, guys. As always,
if you can't hear the lot, if you don't want to hear the lot, or you just go, for God's sake, shut up.
Oh yeah,
just let us know.
Oh, that's the God. So right. So have you had anything interesting happen in the last couple of days since I spoke to you?
Well, I've had a letter from Master Yao. And
what?
I've also seen a self-defense thing on the thing I was going to tell you about. What should I tell you about the letter? Okay.
Go on, tell us about the
letter. No, it just says, let's have a look. Nice to know that you have made a life in Canada. I'll just flip through some of the points, I guess. He says he's more or less retired. All the running the association is down to committee now. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is a matter for conjecture. I did say to him, I love the Lau Gar, and he's just put, as for the love of Lau Gar, I thank you. You are always my student, as there was never any argument between us, whatever. Yeah. Hope you do well for your new venture, and please keep well and safe in regards to your family. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's very nice.
It's a nice letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
You don't you call Master Yowza Babe?
I do call him Yowza Babe, yeah. Not for his face, isn't he? No, he's got a sense of humour, but not a great sense of humour.
Well, that's nice.
Yowza Babe. Yeah, that was my pet name for. Yowza Babe.
Oh, anyway. But go
on. Sorry, I was going to just say I tried to save this thing, but you know me and technology, I haven't got a clue.
Oh, yeah.
and I was looking for this thing. I put it under bullshit dough on the computer.
Right.
And it's a thing saying, we teach you what martial arts doesn't teach you in your room, in the comfort of your own room.
Listen, so. I can go one better than that, because I've been digging out, right, stuff on Tinternet. Now I've got a genuine bona fide, right? This is a little advert on the internet. I say little, it's about bloody 12 pages long on a PDF. But it's from 2015, right? And it's from a website which is now defunct called the martialartssecrets.com, okay? And
secrets.
This is marketed, right, as the most dangerous page on the entire internet for your eyes only. So right away, I'm hooked, okay? And the title is Real Dim Mak Death Touch Secrets That Chinese Masters Don't Want You to See Finally Revealed.
Oh, wow.
And it says, keep reading and learn how you can get these secrets, and wait for it, for just £1.
Oh.
Are you hooked?
I'm hooked.
So there's loads and loads of, gumph in this. And then it gets to the part, and it's funny. So it's, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to I'm not going to use the guy's full name, but I'll just use his first name, all right? So, Okay. You've probably never heard of Stephen, but Stephen was and is the guy that has trained with Chinese masters right in the heart of the Chinese mountains. And we know something about Stephen. Simply put, Stephen was probably the only guy we ever met who would be able to hand us and reveal to us the real Dim Mak secrets of the Chinese masters. Why, you ask? Why? Because Stephen has gone to great lengths to really get on the inside of what these Chinese masters do and how they do what they do. Get this, Steve. He's travelled to China on multiple occasions and studied and trained in the mountains, no less, with top Chinese masters who, quite frankly, hate Westerners getting their hands on these secrets. But Stephen got on the inside. And the prize... I know it gets better. And the prize he always had his eye on was simple. Dim Mak. Okay? Because as good as Stephen's general martial art training was and is, there was something that was bugging him. He really wanted the juicy stuff. And he heard of Dim Mak. And then it goes on and on. And it says as well...
For the listeners, you better let them know Dim Mak means death touch.
There you go, death touch.
To strike someone in a specific place and render them, like in 3 weeks' time, they have a heart attack or something.
Yeah. Oh, we've got 5 fingers of death. Yeah. Like Kill Bill. And it rambles on, it goes, it took Stephen years to get these secrets. Stephen studied with Master Liming Yu from the Shaolin Temple and Grandmaster Kong Ji Gao right in the heart of the mountains of Shangjiaji, and many more of the original and quite frankly amazing Chinese masters in the mountains. And after trekking up the mountains, right, this Stephen gets around. After trekking up the mountains, meeting with Shaolin masters and learning from every Chinese master Stephen could actually get hold of and meet in the heart of China, Stephen finally found it, the real Dim Mak secrets. And I tell you what, I mean, this is just amazing, because you can get all this for £1.
That's fantastic.
Steve.
But
now,
for that £1, sorry, can I just say, for £1, I'm only going to name one of his names as well, and I'm going to say Burton.
Hey, listen, I didn't.
It's a bona fide advert.
That is crazy.
All we're doing is reading his advertising for him.
That's amazing. I mean,
if he wants people to believe that, and he wants to promote himself like that, then good luck to him.
Yeah.
And obviously he's getting a few people from things like that who truly believe it, and
Yeah, I mean,
No
this
doubt.
advert
Hey, you
is-
better watch. You better watch now, James. You go down the street, someone might, tread on your toe, and you'll have a heart disease in the next 3 weeks.
It just amazes me, just the bullshit in this thing. I mean, I'm just like, but fear not, if you're not satisfied with your, £1 DVD download, he will refund you money. So
He'll give you your pound
he'll give
back,
you your
will he?
pound back. So I'm, hey, back then, if I knew about it, I'd have paid my quid. Yeah. I might have been one of them students who left you, Steve, and
Yeah.
so sod it.
Yeah, it's one of
the
those,
juicy
isn't
stuff.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's the kind of thing that you get from the 1970s.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing story.
Yeah. But
And well, the less said about that, the better. Let's move on.
yeah. No, I just thought I had to mention that because I just.
Yeah.
I once said to you, and you said I said this, but I can't remember ever saying it. But I once said martial arts are dead. And I was like,
It's things like that are killing them. That's the problem.
Yeah. Oh dear God. I don't know.
There is a reason to believe that, and that is because people do go to various groups and they go through several weeks of training, maybe even a few days, or maybe a few years, to discover that the stuff that they're learning is just completely and utterly ridiculed by people.
Yeah.
And then they initially they try to protect it, they try to defend it. It's like, there's a psychology that people will always kind of defend their school or whatever. And irrespective, if they believe in the instructor or they believe in a politician or they believe in whatever, they will always, their psychology tells them, everything is true, everything is right. And that's a really weird situation. I mean, it's the same as these people who, fall over for their instructor or their master when
it's
they pretend to touch them or don't touch them.
Yeah.
And
it's
it's
that
the same.
hypnosis thing, isn't it? It's like when you see hypnotists on stage, and it's like that group.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It must be the same sort of part of the brain.
And that, for that reason, it's things like that do kill martial arts, because people who do that, people who go to these groups, not necessarily just that kind of thing, but when they go to clubs that have no real technical value, and they go up and down the hall every day and they get fit and they think it's great, and then they're attacked by someone or they're threatened by someone and their psyche just collapses, or their techniques collapse for that matter. They then find it very difficult to believe in martial arts, and they've got a big mouth. They'll open that kind of attitude to the world, because they're initially they're in denial, and after that they want everyone to believe them.
Yeah, right.
And all they're doing is saying, you know what, I went to martial arts, it was a waste of time.
Yeah.
I couldn't defend myself.
Yeah.
And they don't want people to do it. They'll ask them to go do sword fencing or bloody skating instead.
Sure. Yeah.
And and for that reason, we have to try to protect the value of the scientific training, if you like, and we've got to stop the infighting. You'll never stop the infighting, but there's no big organisation, there's no governing body of any kind that controls everything, and which means that anybody in their their mother can, and their grandmother, as I always say, can just start up a martial art group and become a master and charge people £1 to learn secrets. And it's such a sad affair, but that's life. But we're here to say martial arts is not dead. We're here to say we're trying to sustain it. We're the people that are trying to stop the extinction of genuine martial arts, and we hope that we can do our best to do that. That's all we can do, is do our best. And if we have students that become better than us, then that is amazing, that is fantastic. And the reason for that is simply that means the style is getting better. The style is sustained. If you keep knocking your students down, or you're trying to be the best man in the class, and someone gets good, so you start beating up on them, then you can see the extension of your martial art and of your club very quickly.
Right, yeah.
And there are assholes like that.
Oh, 100%, you know.
Yeah.
Well, have we mentioned any?
I can mention a few.
Oh, no. Honestly, yeah, no, I mean, what do you think that... Do you think a lot of your philosophy on it sort of is a direct sort of result of Master Yao's sort of teaching of the style in the way he did it? I mean, like, what I mean is, when Master Yao came over, I never trained with Master Yao, but from what you've said, I get the impression that he's a very sort of, no BS teacher. You know, he's not that, you know, he knows his stuff, obviously, but there's no sort of, jazzing up of Kung Fu. He's not glamorizing it, glitzing it. He's out to teach you. It's
the plain truth. It's just the plain truth. You know, you do this because you do that because, you know, if he does this because, you know, this is why we do this, and so on. Yeah. Initially, when he started to teach, he didn't, as with most people at that time, weren't prepared to give too much information about it. So it would just be drills. It would just be do this. Very same in being taught in a traditional household or with a single master in many years ago in the olden days, as they say. He'd barely say anything to you. He'd just expect you to do it, and he'd come in and he'd watch you training. If you weren't training, he wouldn't care. He'd just go out again. You're obviously not going to learn anything. Right. If you are training hard and you're doing everything correctly, then, you know, he'll leave you again, eventually show you something new once he thinks that's great. If you're training hard and making mistakes, you know, he can correct you.
Yeah, sure.
So, you know, but you're training.
Yeah. How much of the training is down to the individual wanting to do it? And what I mean by that is, right, the whole world's on lockdown at the moment, so you've got a lot of people stuck at home. And, obviously, classes are closed, martial art classes are closed, etc. There's a lot of people who, and, I'm not sort of, casting aspersions on them, whatever. I'm just saying there's a lot of people out there who their training pretty much is sort of 2 hours a week, and then they knock it on the head and get on with their lives, as they should, until the next class and the next class. But, we all know that, if you really want to sort of progress, small steps, large steps, whatever, incremental, improvements, you've got to train, yourself. You've got to be motivated to do this.
Yeah, 75% of your, of the, your tuition is from yourself, really.
Right. Yeah, it's just that you. So I was just going to say, how important is it to motivate yourself to train?
Yeah, it is. It's extremely important, but I think it goes in increments. You motivate yourself, but you can't understand what you're doing. So if you continue to motivate yourself to train, and you do train, you start to understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
Then you ask questions and find out if you're right.
Yeah.
And you can discuss different reasons and different, whys and wherefores, but and that way you get more information.
One of the excuses people say is, "Oh, I don't want to train it wrong,"
Yeah.
You hear that a lot, don't you? And it's just
when someone's learning a set, and I'm teaching someone a set, my attitude is, right, okay, so we show them something new. We've just showed them a new part of the form. And they say, well, I won't remember all of it. And I'll say, well, you train what you remember. There's no point in concerning yourself with what you don't.
Yeah.
Just practice the things you remember. Practice the things you do know. And if you're unsure, don't practice them. Just practice the things you are sure about.
Yeah.
And you'll just get better at that. The next time you come, you won't have to worry about that. All you got to worry about is the stuff you weren't sure about.
Sure.
And then you add it to it.
Yeah.
And then you continue to build the house. You continue to add bricks until eventually you've got the whole thing. And obviously practicing the early stuff will give you an idea of how the later stuff works in that form.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
the ideas, or not just in that form, but generally in the style. So
Yeah. You have to be an enormous self-critic, I think. To
yes,
be
you do.
A reasonable martial artist, so to say.
Yeah.
I don't want to use the word good and great and all that, but you really do have to. You have to be in search of perfection, but equally, understanding that you will never attain it. And
well, if you attain it, you'll stop training.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think that's quite liberating. Actually, that's the way I was. I guess I got it from you, but yeah, it's very, very, very funny the way some people train. Yeah.
I was going to say, my kids and I think other people that I've known kind of always expect me to compliment them. Yes. Every time they get something right.
Yeah, I get
and
this
it's I'm wrong. Yeah, right, I'm wrong. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I don't. I'll always say, yeah, that's great, but now do this, now do that, and it's just constantly pushing, and they get fed up of being pushed.
Yeah, well, I think, right, that's the way my dad sort of brought me up, and so I understand that. And when you do it when you're teaching, like you've always done it with me, you've never given compliments, and not what I mean is you like you said, yeah, well done, good, but you've been very sparse with these you don't like to butter people up, do you? And that for me that's refreshing, because as soon as you've got people telling you, you're chocolate, you'll eat yourself.
Exactly. Well, that's. I can tell you a story about. There was some people. I won't name who they are. Guardians.
Right.
We were doing. We were at Lilleshall doing. The course.
The Guardian meeting.
The Guardians meeting, AGM, etc., and training. We have a weekend of training. And some of people were preparing a demonstration for the national championships. Okay, right. We're talking the Guardians of right at the kind of the top echelons, if you like.
Yeah, right.
And I was doing nothing. I was standing at the side as they were going through this, and they said, "Steve, can you watch us and tell us how it's how it looks and so on?" I went, "Okay." So I sat down and watched. And they went through, a form or whatever.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, they said, "What do you think?" I went, "It's crap." Right. And I'm sorry, and I apologise to the people I said that to. But the point is, I didn't mean it in a, arrogant way or anything. Yeah. It was just, I want it to be better.
Yeah, sure.
And I've always done demonstrations. As you know, I did a lot of World Championship demonstrations and stuff with girls, and doing self-defense, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And we've done performances at the theatres and all that sort of thing, with music, etc., and smoke and whatever. So when I watch someone do a demonstration, I don't want to see them doing their syllabus. I want to see the syllabus integral with the demonstration, but I don't want to see just the syllabus. In other words, if you do a demonstration and you complete a whole form, by the end time, even if it's a short form, by the time you finish that form, audience will be bored. They're not interested.
Yeah.
They don't understand it. They don't follow it. What you're doing is just showing what you can do.
Yeah.
You're not showing what they can do. So it's really important to show audiences how beautiful it looks, and make them want to do it.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah.
How many times do you watch a singer and just think, amazing voice, I wish I could do that kind of thing. I mean, they know often they're not going to be capable of it, but you want them to dream.
Yeah.
And when you watch someone do a complete form, my attitude is, do a section of a form and then do something straight off, then do something else, then do something else, and so on. So you've got this fast pace, changing all the time, everything changing,
right.
and everything vibrant, and it keeps people on their seats,
Yeah.
and it keeps people staring at you, and they don't get bored. But do a complete form and then wait for applause is not the greatest way of doing a demonstration.
Yeah.
I used to do a demonstration with a girl, and eventually we parted our ways. We had a relationship as well, so that was kind of, that's never good to have a relationship in business as well. Yeah. So anyway, her new boyfriend, who was also doing martial arts, I actually encouraged her to go out with people because I didn't want to go out with her anymore. She started doing this with another guy, and so she started training this demonstration with, I'm not going to say who it was that was teaching them. Nevertheless, it was of a great quality, shall we say.
Right.
And he started teaching them this demonstration, which was sort of on a par to the way that we would do it. But we would do a specific, we would do a specific thing. And what they did then was they did this demonstration, self-defense demonstration,
right.
girl, boy kind of thing. And he would attack her, she would defend herself. And then they'd go off the mat, come back on with a knife, do it again. She'd defend herself.
Okay.
Pick up a stick, attack her again, do it again. And constantly just repeating these things that, after a bit you go, for God's sake, is he not dead yet?
Yeah.
Hasn't she beat him up yet? Hasn't she? So there was no reality in it, and it was just full of moves, both intricate and hard to decipher, and at the same time hard to consider that they would ever be useful.
Yeah, but it's like you said, if you're doing a demo, you can't do the demo for yourself. You've got to do it for the audience.
Exactly.
Because goodness me, I love the training we did for that Scottish Chinese New Year all those years ago with a great guy called Seamus. Brilliant guy, but. It's like, we really worked hard at it, and you were there just, no, do this, do it that way. It's got to be funnier. It's got to be, and it was really good. It's really, we got great applause for that. But
absolutely. That was the highlight of the day, wasn't it?
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. But I think you've got many strings to your bow, and sort of demonstrations. You've had success with students. At the top levels of competition fighting. Your traditional knowledge is extremely considerable. You know what?
The way you talk, I feel undervalued.
You must be undervalued. But I was going to. I was going to ask you about like being referees and stuff, but it's kind of because you were a referee at one point. You're very good at refereeing.
I refereed at the World Championships 1991.
Yeah.
And we were refereeing, and the usual thing, but someone loses, so they don't like it, and they come up and they try to change the opinion of the referees. And they come up to me and saying, we believe this, we believe that, and I'm going, no, I only score what I see, right? Yeah. And so, as far as I'm concerned, that's what I saw. That's it, and I'm not going to change my mind. And if you think it's wrong, then how come the other guy scored exactly the same? The other referee scored exactly the same. We both agreed. We announced the winner, okay, and that was it. Yeah. And then, of course, you get the camp complaining, and they convince the other guy to change his decision.
Yeah.
And they come to me to try to get me to change my decision. I said, no, never. I will not change. That would make me look a fool.
Yeah, right.
Why should I make a decision that I didn't believe in?
Yeah.
I totally believe in it. I'm going to stick to it, and that's your lot. Yeah. I'm not changing.
But that's their job, though, as competitors on the mats, though, isn't it? Their job
and their managers and their,
absolutely, just to basically make you doubt yourself.
Oh yeah, you get a lot of you get a lot of stick when you're a referee, a lot of stick. So it's just such a shame that it has to be like that.
What do you think are the qualities that make a good referee in competition fighting? What do you think they are like?
Well, I think you've just got to be, you've got to have your eyes open. Yeah. You've got to move around with the fight. You've got to be involved in the fight. You've got to watch every single thing that happens, of course. and you've got to be totally independent of both camps. Both.
Yeah.
You don't really, even if you know the one side, even if you teach the one side, you've got to be independent and true to yourself. Because if you're not, if you try to, judge the two people differently for different reasons, then you get found out.
Yeah,
and that's wrong. You see a lot of people that are biased all the time. Totally biased, prejudice in some ways as well.
Right.
I've been in competitions where, I've fought people and I've scored points blatantly, and the referee just changing. No, didn't score.
Well,
the guy came over.
We've all been there, Steve.
Yeah, but the guy come over afterwards, and I've had this a couple of times. The guy come over afterwards. He went, "You won that. You beat me fair and square. Then that was good."
It's like,
and I'm going, "Yep, I know." Sticky hands, same thing with the sticky hands.
Right.
I fought Jason.
Oh,
Jason will hate me for saying this.
While the way the hour's telling me this story, go on.
Yeah, Jason will hate me for saying this. Yeah, I swept him 3 times in the nationals.
Yeah.
Controlled the fight, and then at the end of it, there were 3 referees. One was John Russell, who's very into sticky hands and traditional martial arts.
Yeah.
The other 2 referees, George Shaw, bless him, and Mike Lavender, well, they absolutely know nothing about traditional sticky hands. So, but Jason was quite a kind of well-known figure, so they automatically put their hand up for him. And John put his hand up for me, and then he looked at the others, kind of shrugged his shoulders and thought, "What the hell?" And he had to let the fight go, to Jason. Now I don't know what Jason didn't come over to me and say, "Oh, you beat them fair and square." I'm still waiting, Jason.
Brilliant! Oh,
and he came first, and I ended up coming 3rd place.
Yeah, I tell you what,
which was annoying.
I tell you what, I saw on I on YouTube to do with Jason Crabtree on last year's BKFA 2019 Nationals. It was the set competition, or it was the Guardian demonstration or something, and I saw Jason did this thing where he put, and it was wonderful because everyone, if I'm seeing like a Lau Gar, competition, I want to see Lau Gar sets done, but I appreciate they're not that elaborate. But what Jason did was he put all the sets of Lau Gar together as one, sort of amalgamated them, but only did a bit of each set and changed directions, and he made it was so refreshing to look at, thinking, yeah, great, someone's doing it, and really, but as you'd expect, the guy's a well accomplished, and he's Guardian, and he just, great, and all the rest of it, but it was so good to look at, and I thought, that's cool.
I'm glad he's sticking with the script, because so many people now are off doing all these different foreign martial arts that you just don't know that it's a BKFA championship, although it's an open championship, agreed. And then you see people coming from other martial arts who've got these big elaborate sets, and they go, "Oh, we're not going to win because that's so elaborate." And they come on with a fan, and they come on with a pole that weighs about an ounce, and spin it around, and all this sort of thing. And they think, "Well, we're not going to win unless we start doing something like that." And perhaps they're right, but surely the judges should be looking at martial technique. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
And if you come on throwing a flimsy, flickery sword, or a light pole, and that really wouldn't work, and then you can't see any technical value in it, martial value, I should say, then as a judge you should say, "I didn't see any martial value in that." Right. That's just me. That's just my perception of it. I'm not gonna score someone because they can spin a stick faster than another person. I'm going to score someone because they hit someone with that stick, because they were able to defend themselves with that stick, and you can see that they could. and
Yeah,
so
but
on.
then isn't that like, shouldn't you not be refereeing then? Because isn't the point, if it's a set competition, surely there's certain parameters of like.
Well, yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I'm sure my evaluation isn't part of the rules. I'm sure
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I'm meant to look at it and say, oh, does it look pretty?
Yeah, right,
Does,
that's what I'm saying.
or are they in control?
Yeah.
But you can control a light stick or a light sword a lot easier than someone who comes on with a genuine weapon. You
Yeah.
can do that, so it's unfair. So that makes it unfair. And then what people have done is, rather than say, wait a minute, take the little stick off him and give him a heavy pole and see what happens.
Yeah.
See what he can do with it. And if he can still do the form, then that's great. He can win.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you can't continue with that form, or can't do that form because there are limitations, in the techniques that he does, then tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give him a heavy tiger fork. Give him, if he's going to do a heavy weapon, make it a heavy weapon.
Sure.
Don't not just a facsimile thing. Make it a sharp sword. So if he makes a mistake, he's going to cut himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just not the way. The way I don't see it. I want to see, when it comes to weaponry, I want to see real weapons. I want to see real weapon techniques, that they work and so on. I'm very much into swords. As
sure.
you know, I collected swords for many years.
Yeah.
And I'd love to show, when I did courses with weapons and so on, I used to take them and show everybody the swords.
Yeah.
You know.
But it's like, you talk about weaponry, but as soon as you put a live blade in your hand, it changes the dynamic,
Yeah.
straight away. And I always remember when I was in Afghanistan, in one of the patrol bases. No, sorry, it was one of the checkpoints, which is slightly smaller than, it's sort of out in the wilderness a bit. And I was going for a shower, and I couldn't be bothered to take my rifle because all I had was a towel around my waist and my wash bag. I thought, because you have to carry your weapon all around. I thought, I'll just take my pistol. So I got my pistol, and I shoved it down the front of my towel. Like
Oops.
a gangster, right? So I'm walking to the shower, and I got like 5 steps out the tent, and I suddenly thought, oh shit, I got a loaded frigging pistol pointed at my Jacobs. I don't and it was that realization. I thought, nope, and I put it down the back of my pants, and I was like, my towel, and I thought, never doing that again. But it's
at least you'll get a burn mark.
Yeah, get a burn mark, But it's like it's that same thing. You suddenly realise, oh damn, this is real. And when you're doing like a sword set or whatever, and you've got a live blade or it's a heavy weapon, it just changes totally, and it's just
exactly,
wow,
exactly, and that's what you got to appreciate.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you can do that at speed and you can control your footwork, and the sword doesn't control you. Okay, you just follow the sword. You're not carrying the weight of the sword. The sword never stops.
Yeah.
It should never. The only time it stops is when it's pointing outwards, when it's stabbing outwards, because obviously it only goes so far. But then immediately it must turn, and as it turns, you turn or whatever.
Yeah.
Then it continues its movement. But it's directional, directly forwards or directly backwards or wherever. And immediately it has to be used in another way. If you let that sword stand still for 1 second, that's the time it's not sharp anymore.
It's useless, isn't it?
Then it becomes so that's when other people can get in.
Yeah.
And the same with most weapons. You allow them to stay still, and then that's you. Then because other people can get in.
I gotta take issue with that because I watched Jake Mace do butterfly swords on
Oh, for God's
on
sake.
YouTube, and I tell you what, God,
he only does it for the numbers on the. I'm sure he gets plenty of money from YouTube.
The guy is a genius, though, isn't he? He's a genius. I mean, God damn.
He knows absolutely nothing about martial arts, but he's a genius when it comes to YouTube. Because he knows exactly how to sell himself.
Yeah, right.
But he's I even sent something to him once. This, please stop this. That was my, my message on the bottom of it. My comments on the bottom of his video. Please, God's sake, stop this.
That's genius. When he's
He's
not doing what is it, Panther style and real, kung fu fighting. Oh Jesus Christ! It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's comedy.
The butterfly knives, particularly, I love it.
Yeah.
I've watched him when he stands there and he
cut.
starts teaching him it. And cut. And he's got the two together in his hand, doesn't he? And he can't split them with his thumbs. He has no idea how to split them, apparently. Yeah. So what does he do? Throw one up in the air and catch it with the other. Can you just imagine doing that in a stress situation, in a fighting situation, or in a moving situation? You throw the sword up in the air. Oh yeah, that's a bloody good idea. That is Jake.
I love
and just naming him like that, so people go and watch him. He's just going to up his bloody, YouTube.
Oh well, he's rich enough. It won't make any difference if you
don't
watch
him.
If the one person listening to us right now just goes and he ain't going to make a difference. But you got to see it. You got to see it. But there's so many it's wonderful YouTube in terms of like the diversity of it, and like you see all these people. I follow this New England Jeet Kune Do guy because it's comedy gold.
God.
That's the one I told you about when he kicked him in the ball. There's another one from America, because most of the best ones are from America. There's a couple of good ones in the UK, but I think we've already mentioned them, haven't we? But but there's what's the one in America? A guy called Freddy's Modern Kung Fu, and it's a YouTube channel, right? And this guy, he must be sort of like in his mid-30s or whatever, but you can tell, he's studied Bruce Lee. Like, everything about Bruce Lee, he just wants to be Bruce Lee from the way he tries to fight, and what I was watching his video the other day, and he was doing sort of like a real, crap version of sticking hands, but it wasn't sticking hands, it was just a few drills, And I thought, I recognise that. And it was the bit, he's ripped off the bit in Enter the Dragon where Bruce Lee is I think it's with Bob Wall, and they're touching their arms together, and
he just pushes his arm across.
Yeah,
and
but
then
on one of them, Bob Wall blocks it, and Bruce goes down into a bong cell or whatever. But he ripped off that, and I was like, man, that's low, man. You're ripping off the movies now. But it's great. It's so funny just to watch. But we can talk about that for ages. Yeah. Oh, jeez. What I wanted to do, what I wanted to talk to you about is we're doing our set analysis.
Well, I'd rather call it like a little bit of advice,
like
a set advice.
Yeah. Well,
because you can't really analyse the set without video, can you?
But within the confines of a podcast, it's as good as an analysis you'll get, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
If you complain, I don't care. Honest to God. So we're doing our. I can't call it set analysis now because all the other ones are titled set analysis. We're going to talk about Farcune. And I didn't just swear at you.
Farcune. Yeah. Farcune too.
Farcune too. What? Yeah. What? So we're talking about the fourth set of Lau Gar.
Flower Fist.
Flower Fist. Yeah, go for it.
Oh, is it me?
Yeah,
Am I on?
It's you. I mean, if you don't mind, you are the.
Flower Fist is Farcune is.
Go on.
Yeah, you're the presenter. Yeah.
No, I'm the sidekick. I'm the comedy sidekick, who's not funny.
As far as Farcune is concerned, I actually do like Farcune quite a lot. There's some really good techniques in there, and as you develop them, I think a lot of the time people don't like Farcune because there's a bit where you go down twice, and the kind of butterfly stance, and as you sit down there. Often people can't get up again, so it kind of puts them off that form until eventually they can. I remember when I started learning spinning kicks, and you do spinning kicks, and you can't do them very well, and so you were always going, you know what? I would never do this kick in real life. And then, of course, I did it. As I developed, and this was a long time ago, even before I did Lau. Yeah. That's when I was kicking cigarettes out of people's mouths with the spinning kick. Yeah. But it was initially, that's silly. That is, I can't do this. It doesn't work. But yeah, it's obviously came to pass that it did. So a lot of the techniques within Farcune they're subtle, but at the same time they're kind of, they correspond to each other. If you understand what I'm saying, you move one to the other. There's obviously there's the fist underneath, and the double elbows, that sort of thing. Double. What do we call these things?
Double bridge?
People will call they'll call them double bridges, but also double something else. And Jesus, it escapes me. I apologise, people. It escapes me. But yeah. Well, Surnue Q, it's double bridges, but they also call it something else. Yeah. Anyway, it's swinging bridge as well, by the way, because it's swinging round. It's rotating. We always talk about rotating. So as we're doing that swinging bridge, it is rotating from the shoulder down and then around and up, as like a little swinging bridge with the fist coming underneath it upside down. It's one technique in itself. And then we turn it like a steering wheel the other way, go the other direction, so on. Yeah. So these techniques, those are the techniques we talked about like last podcast, where people think, well, I'm not going to bother with that because I don't think that works, I don't think this works. But in the Farcune particularly, once you're away from Chop Choi and you start thinking about Farcune, you start to realise the subject that we talked about previously, which is, it's not an A and a B technique from one position to the next. There's 1,000 ways of using it on its journey, and that's what this set really kind of brings that to light, and kind of shows you the kind of things you can do with that rotating swinging bridge and so on, and also the sitting down as well. People often wonder, well, why are we going down like that, kind of thing, but they're forgetting, of course, their arms are coming up as cross arms. They're coming up, they're grabbing, they're coming up, they're holding on.
So just if we can just what's the name of that stance?
Well, the butterfly. It's like a butterfly stance. Yeah.
Okay. What's the name of the stance? The butterfly stance. Yeah, the butterfly stance. What's it called? Wu Dip Ma? Is that it?
Yeah, Wu Dip Ma.
And now everyone knows what this stance is. I call it like the. I always joke with people. It's like the Demi Moore striptease poster pose. When she's naked. Oh yeah. Yeah. But you tell. What's your interpretation of this? Give us an idea of.
We're talking about the sitting down.
Yeah, the twisting. Yeah, the butterfly stance.
Yeah, a lot of people, they do it, and a lot of the time they don't. Well, it's like anything. They don't half the time know why they're doing these things. They just do them because they're in the form. Yeah. I want you to imagine that a person is punching you. You're about to go down with your right leg behind you. It's very difficult on a podcast to explain. But your arms are coming up as almost like a cross block, I guess. The one arm can then contain the arm that's coming at you, and particularly if it's a left arm for that particular direction. If the left arm is forward, like a jab or whatever, or a finger strike, and you're holding on to that, but then you're sitting down. As you sit down, their body will follow you. In other words, it's a throw.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are literally throwing them as you sit. So you're stepping to your side, you're bringing them around to your right-hand side in an arc, so they start to throw.
Yeah, but you're also dropping your body weight downwards, which brings
their body weight down, and which creates inertia, and that's what it's about. You're trying to create inertia in that stance. So once you sit down there, you've obviously got to get straight back up again, and that's where people have a problem. So once you're down, you've got to turn around and get up at the same time. You're getting up, however, without using your hands. So there's another interpretation you can use for this stance. And basically what's happening is if you imagine, sort of Chinese soldiers around a campfire, and their secondary weapon, which would be their sword, their first primary weapon would be a spear, and they would have a Manchu sword on their backs or whatever, and then they're sitting at a campfire, suddenly they hear a noise, or they're suddenly attacked. They can get up from that position without using their hands. So therefore they can draw their sword, and as they get up, they can make a complete 360 cut all the way around. Okay.
Yeah, I
So
always
God
like
help,
that. I like
God
that.
help you if you're sitting at the same campfire.
I'm just having me rations, Bob.
Yeah. So that's basically they're able
Yeah.
to completely make a 360 turn
Yeah.
as they get up without using their hands, so their hand can be useful for the sword.
Just
can be
very,
used.
just very briefly, yes or no? Is the Manchu sword the one with the ring on the end of the hilt?
That's right.
That's
yeah,
the
Manchu.
right, okay.
Yeah.
So, Flower Fist. Why do you think it's called Flower Fist?
It's a loose interpretation. Flower fist. It means lots of different directions, almost like it's got loads of different avenues to it, which is I just described. It's not literally looking like a flower or anything. It's just like a flower has lots of petals and so on.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that direction. Like we've already said, the difficulty of interpreting Chinese into English and vice versa is quite difficult, and so the flower fist refers to the fact that it's the fist being hewn, the style in effect has lots of different directions and values.
But that's very interesting because like you look at the Lau Gar, you look at Lau Gar as a style and you look at the syllabus, right? So unlike sort of Wing Chun, you know, in Lau Gar, you'll do jumping kicks. You'll go low. You'll
go
see what I
high.
mean? So there's a lot of variation in it. Now I'm not saying Wing Chun don't do jumping kicks. I'm sure it was in there somewhere, but you know, let's face it, you never see them. But it's interesting when you look at the style of Lao. You can say, oh well, we do have jumping kicks. So that they are emphasised, aren't they? Going back to the talking about the flower, there's actually a technique in Flower Fist, Far Kyun, called the flower hides in the sleeve. Now that sounds very sort of mystic. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, the flower hides in. It's just your palm. It's just as you're drawing your hand back, and it's the flower hides in the sleeve.
So when you're
when
you're in the sort of gung bo, the bow and arrow stance, you're extended your right fist, for example. You're quite long, and your left.
And you're withdrawing. You're withdrawing one hand, and as you're withdrawing it, the fingers are upside down, and then they're drawing backwards. And as they draw backwards, it's meant to be a block or a release. And you're bringing back the hand until it's right up the sleeve, hidden up the sleeve.
Yeah,
and that's really it's just a poetic way of explaining it.
Yeah, but it's nice. But like the
well, it's if you look at the first set, and Tai Chi as well, snake creeps down and all that kind of thing. But if you look at as far as Lao's concerned, the first one, tiger presses down, and then in Bok Pai Jun, you got tiger presses the mountain and all.
No, I understand that. I understand. I didn't want to get bogged down in sort of the way these techniques sound. Obviously, but
the beauty looks in the mirror. And so on. But they're poetic ways of explaining.
But you also can't. You know what you're talking about. Like if you said beauty looks in mirror, I know that.
Yeah.
So you can associate it as well.
Yeah, you're performing an action, and you're describing the action you're performing. Pressing down, the tiger presses down, just means it's a powerful press down. Yeah. It's a hard press down. The beauty looks in the mirror. You are literally, if you think about it, you use your hand as if to pick up a small mirror and then turn it around and actually look at it. A lot of people, when they do the block, they can't even see their palm because it's so far out. So what you're literally doing is just rotating that hand around and picking up the mirror and looking at it. The willow waves diagonal in the wind. That's a willow leaf. Which is upright. So.
Talk about, if you would, the leopard fist, leopard's paw.
Yeah, leopard's paw is a slight extension of a larger fist, and it's extended, which makes it thinner, so it's available to go into much smaller spaces. In Far Kyun, there is an uppercut, and immediately it turns into a leopard's paw. So the uppercut obviously is employed to remove the chin from the area, and as you're striking the chin, even if you don't strike it, they'll move out the way by pulling their head back as they see the fist coming.
Yeah.
They'll try to put their hand there, and so as you're rotating, you're hoping to block or parry whatever's coming and continue the leopard's paw, a much narrower fist towards the throat. So
Sure.
It's one of those techniques that you're not going to see in kickboxing.
No, but you know, you could look at the uppercut and, you know, on its
Yeah,
own
you can see the uppercut. Yeah,
But
they'll see the uppercut, and then. But if they've got their chin down, you're not going to be able to get into their neck.
But there's an example of when you've got an elaborate form with one move following the next,
Yeah.
It's a movement that creates a use for the next movement. So you could, do you know what I mean? So you could equally break them down as individuals, but within the context of that opening in Far Kune, the uppercut lends itself to that leopard paw.
Yeah, and with a choice of uses, because as you do so, you're rotating, which also means your arm is in a particular position to rotate. Now, it can be rotating in order to create that direction, but it can also be rotating to remove someone else's arm from your arm. Yeah. If you understand, they're grabbing your arm, you can rotate your arm to escape that. Yeah. So as you rotate it, you're able to attack them at the same time. And of course, going forwards and backwards, if they're pulling you, it's easier to go forwards. If they're pushing you, it's easier to pull them backwards. Or towards you, I should say. Right? Pull them towards you.
A big one thing I see a lot of people doing in Far Kune pertaining to the uppercut and the leopard fist is they're actually, after they've done the uppercut, they cock the hand back to strike with the leopard paw. So they're effectively telegraphing that strike. But really,
they think it's a snake.
Yeah,
they're acting it like a snake, as if they're, you know, no, there's nothing. It's just simply a rotation, uppercut rotation, just twist. You can see me doing it, can't you? Now I'm doing it.
But it's interesting. It's hard to describe, but the energy created in that leopard paw is from a rotation of the wrist, not you moving your whole arm forward. It will go forward naturally, but it's that rotation.
Well, the arm is continuing forward from the uppercut anyway. So. You know, at the end of the day, it is yes, the rotation, but of course the forward motion has already been employed and is being employed, and it's going to go right the way as far as the shoulder. In fact, a test for it often is standing next to someone and throwing a punch towards someone's shoulder, say, not to hit them, but just simply try to touch them. And you find that you're about 2 or 3 inches behind, you know, not able to reach them. And then when you do a loose leopard's paw, your fingers will actually touch them, the knuckles will touch them. So it's an extendable springing motion, which is why its connotations are towards, you know, the leopard animal. So it's like a, you know, stealthy, you know, loose movement. Right. A springy movement, like a leopard, you know, rather than a tenacity and anger and aggression like a tiger, and so on. The animals have all these different connotations, don't they? And that's why they use this kind of. They value them in that way, you know, put a value on them in that sense.
But I mean, it's the spirit in which you do it. That's what the 5 animals.
Yeah, originally, but of course, it's also the shall we say, the mechanics of the animal.
Right.
You know, so if you're doing something as a tiger, like I say, you're going to be doing it with strength and tenacity and anger and aggression and so on, and much more powerful kind of effort. If you're doing it with a snake, you're going to be doing it stealthily and swiftly, and you know, you're not going to let anybody see it. It's going to be like underhand and snidey and straight through, and then the springiness of a leopard. And I don't know what a crane does. You know, all I can see a crane is
when it flaps.
I just look at a turkey on a table and just think there's a crane.
Isn't the crane like, you know, when he flaps its wings, it's kind of implying defensive movement and covering himself, and you know, all the rest. I don't know.
I guess so, but you've got the crane's beak, you've got the crane's wings, you've got and the other thing, the good thing about, I mean, obviously the crane is, because it's a Chinese kind of domestic. It lives in China. I don't mean it's domesticated. I don't mean you put a lead on it, walk it around. It's domestic of China. It lives in China. Okay, if that's the word. And when you do, whenever people try to flap their hands like a bird, birds don't actually fly like that. They lift their hands over the pocket of air and then push that pocket of air down, if you can understand what I'm saying. So they are raising the hand and then rotating it, or the wing, and then it rotates and presses down so that they make forward motion. And so when they refer to that kind of hand movement, like a crane's wing, it's merely meaning that your arm comes up, rotates, and then presses down, as opposed to just flaps up and down. And a good example of this is the beginning of a Tai Chi form, Yang, I can talk about, where a lot of people who don't actually do martial arts, when they do a Yang Tai Chi, they're not doing it for a martial art, they're just doing it for the health, benefits and so on. So when they raise their arms at the beginning of the set, they're kind of lifting them up with their fingers, their hands flat and just push, and then pushing them down. Like as if they were like bowing. But of course, and the way we do it is that we would rotate the hands in the way the crane does. So they would come up sideways, then rotate and press down, and so it has a martial usefulness. You can disconnect a grab from that, but you can't disconnect a grab from flapping your hands up and down like a bow.
You still grabbed you then. Go back to Fa Kun. So we've got another. We've got the rolling punch, the first rolling punch in it.
Gaucho,
the gaucho. Now that's an extended movement, so you're trying to do that long, if you like.
You're doing the double bridges first, and then of course then you're rotating, you're pushing against the person that you may have hit, pushing them further back, and because you're pushing them further back, you need to now reach them. So you need to but you're keeping them off you, and then you're chasing. Most techniques that are done with an addition technique after it, addition technique after that, and so on, obviously have to chase it as well. You can't just do this technique without either a shuffle or a long step, because you're hitting thin air, because you've just knocked him back and you can't chase him. It means you're not going to hit him.
No, you've got to perceive what you're doing.
You've got to persist. It's a persistent number of techniques to render him unwilling to fight. If you like, small techniques with a general amount of energy, not a massive amount of energy. The smaller the techniques, enough to hurt, so that you're taking his mind off it. You're making him worry. You're making him scared. You're shocking him. Whatever leaves room for a nice good kick in the nuts. So that's so the big techniques, the more powerful techniques, can be done after the person is rendered open, liable to counter.
Well, you always said that the smaller the technique, the faster the fight. Now,
it'll be faster because and they're meant to be invisible as well. A lot of these things are meant to be invisible. So this is why I say, when people learn a form, and Fa Kun is a probably the first one that really kind of emphasizes this, is that when you do the massive movements, as the form dictates, when you're learning it, the big A, big B, big C kind of thing, like when you're learning on a school board, they have absolutely no purpose or use at all. The use is there, but to do them in reality, you wouldn't be able to do them fast enough. You'd just be limiting yourself. And that's why it's difficult for me to watch a Black Sash do a form in the same way he would teach it. It's got to be done more fluidly. It's got to be done with smaller motions. But when they do it with smaller motions, they shouldn't be able to. They can't take away the usefulness of it. They've got to actually increase the usefulness of it. So, and that bit is a really good. Well, certainly the first part where you're doing, we use that as examples a lot, don't we? Where we're doing, Sun Q, Q. And then the rotation, and then the uppercut, and the leopard's paw, and that can be done in very extremely much smaller motion, making it very, very fast.
I think on our YouTube channel, one of the life lessons of a martial artist videos with me interviewing you, we cut away to some footage of you demonstrating that from Fa Kun, and you do it in a big a demonstrating way, and then you do it to apply it, and it's fast, and so that's what you're always talking about. Moving on, we've covered the Wu Dim Mak, the butterfly stance, and we've got we kind of jump back in this form, don't we? As well, we do a step and we jump back, or you can
jump back and you go back to the same kind of press as we talked about yesterday about the bull terrier. And this time you're avoiding the kick, diving back, and as you dive back, you're attacking the leg that is coming with you, because as he goes to kick you, you're actually jumping out the way of the kick and strike, and while you're in the air, you're striking at the opposing foot.
See, this is funny because we always say it's close range fighting, blah blah blah, Lau Gar, and then you see a technique like a jump back, and you think, but you're
jumping back in relation to a kick that's coming forward.
I understand that. Can I just make my point? What I was saying was. So I was teaching a jumping back fist doing some competition fighting the other day, and it's great technique. And they were like, it's a good technique, James, but it's not very, I don't like it. I said, well, it's in the syllabus. And they said, what? I said, well, you're jumping back. Think about Farkun when you're jumping back. It's the same sort of idea, isn't it? You're jumping away from the technique. So, we can, there's a lot of, and I don't mean it's literally in the syllabus, but just take the idea of a jump back. But
then it is in the syllabus, because remember the syllabus is only the vehicle, James.
Yes, I know.
People have got to look at it like that.
Yeah. And what I was saying, we got on to talking about, and is not, it doesn't pertain particularly to Farkun, but essentially that when you look at a lot of the sets in Lau Gar, you will find, funny enough, sort of competition fighting techniques. And what I mean by that is you will see these, extended reverse punches, all the back fists and the high, blocks and stuff. And I'm just skirting the issue here, Steve. I'm not saying any more than that. But basically, it's interesting. So, there's another application, or as I see it. Sorry, I didn't mean to...
No, that's you're right. And certainly in the 80s, there were... because kickboxing was part of the Kung Fu, the fighting was a part of the Kung Fu training, and then they decided to separate it to make it a completely individual training program, so that people who weren't interested in the sets and forms and so on, and were just interested in fighting, they didn't just go off and find someone who just did fighting. They stayed and trained with us, because you don't want to lose good fighters. You want to maintain these, that you're stable, if you like. And so what they did was they introduced into the syllabus. Before that happened, they introduced into the syllabus 9 and 10 hand blocks and kick blocks. And the hand blocks are invariantly, one's a hook and one's a back fist.
Shuffle, jab, hook.
Uppercut and back fist.
Yeah. Very competition. And same with the kick blocks, a hook kick. And
I think they were just trying to emphasise the fact that, look, guys, this is part of what we do. So, you don't have to go anywhere else to learn an uppercut, a back fist, a lead punch and all the rest of it, a jab. You don't need, because they're there. I always have this joke I play with people, and, obviously we have our little hoodies and stuff like that. And I would take the hood off, right, or I wouldn't have it on in the first place, and I would say, look, this is the difference between Kung Fu and kickboxing. And I would stand there and I would jab and throw a couple of punches at someone, with my hood down, and say, that's Kung Fu. And then I would stick my hood up and then sniff a couple of times, throw the same punches and techniques and say, that's kickboxing.
I love it.
And that's a joke. But what I'm saying is, it's a bloody same thing.
Yeah, of course it's the same. But you try, explaining that to people, and it's a what? No, it's different. No, look, no, it's the.
Well, it's like saying
way.
It's like saying to a boxer, we do kicks, as you've already described. Kicks are useless, you know. So they square up to you with their fists up and everything. They've got great lead punches. If they hit you, you're going to be in trouble, So you stand back and you just kick at the shins, and they just go, hang on, I don't like that. That's not very funny. That's not nice.
No, I did. No,
You know?
but I did that to one of the battalion boxers when I was in Northern Ireland. Like, he was a great mate of mine, but he was just having a joke with me because he knew I did some martial arts. He said, Still, do you want to fight? And he put, he's quite a good boxer actually. And he put his hands up, and I just shot a front kick through his guard, and he went, "Oh!" He's like, "What was that?" I said, "It was a kick, mate." I said, "Did you not know?" Anyway, bless him. But it wasn't hard. It stung him a bit, but he left. He's a great friend of mine, actually. Yeah, he's brilliant. And so I know what you mean. It's funny.
Yeah, it's often like that.
Continuing with Far Kyung, because we better be wrapping up soon. We've got towards the end of the form. We will effectively sort of twist our stance into a cross step or twisted stance, whatever you want to say, and we will emphasise
a unicorn step.
There you go, and we will emphasise a grab and a sickle kick. And can you just talk a bit about that?
Yeah, well, we've done a leopard's paw in one direction, and as we turn, we are going to rotate our hand using the forearm of the right hand to block with, and then as we've blocked the arm, we are going to take up that block with the other hand, the arm rather that we've blocked with the other hand, and we're going to grab it with the left hand. So we're going to grab the hand, then we're going to rotate it, and as we rotate it with our left hand, the fist that has just punched us, we are then going to consolidate that grip once it's upside down with the other hand, consolidate it, I should say, not consolidate it.
Yeah.
And then we're able to pull it with both hands, and it is all now upside down in a much weaker position than it was. And then we do the sickle kick.
Can I just try and decipher that for people listening? So normally when people do that, they go in, they twist in unicorn stance, whatever. They will tend to grab with both hands at exactly the same time.
Yeah.
But what you're suggesting is if you grab with your left hand and imagine you're twisting, changing the anatomy of the opponent's arm, for example, you're grabbing that.
You make him weaker.
Or you're bringing his arm into your right
at the same time.
Yeah. And then grab. So it's a way of interpreting a grab. Like most people just grab both at the same time, but you're suggesting grab one.
If you grab both at the I agree. If you grab with both hands at the same time, you're using 50% of your energy on one hand and 50% on the other. If you grab with two separate times, you're grabbing with 100% of your energy on one hand and then 100% on the other. So it makes it stronger, by definition. But so what you're literally doing after you've done the leopard's paw is someone's punching to your side. They're throwing a punch at the side of your head, or if you like, and what you're doing is literally turning round and blocking that with the inside of your hand, which is why your hand is upside down and turned outwards and flat. And the reason you have your hand out and flat, like as if you was holding up the sky, is because literally all you're doing is tightening the sinews in that forearm so you can use it as a block. So as you do that, the other hand now is, at that point in time, once you've blocked it, is sliding up to consolidate the grip to grab that hand, or that punching hand. So once you grab it with the left hand, you then immediately start to rotate it to bring your left hand back to your waist, as we're taught in the basics. But at the same time, you then are able to utilize your right hand to then bring it underneath, grip the same arm, and draw it into you. As you draw it into you, it's increasing the energy of the kick that's going out, which is a sickle kick. So you're pulling the person onto the kick literally with both hands and coming to the waist or towards your waist. The left hand certainly to your left waist. And so you've got the maximum strength, and he's also put in an awkward position because his arm has been twisted around. So it's a really good technique if you interpret it properly. If you don't interpret it properly, all you're doing is just grabbing hold of his arm while you kick him, which gives him the option to hit you with the other one. But if you're pulling him from his right side, it makes him difficult for him to punch with his left. And he's already getting kicked.
But yeah, no. So for people at home, if you talking about tightening the sinews of the arm, if you just look at your your palm and just bend it back as much as you can, really tensioning that forearm. That's what you're talking about there, Steve, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of people are doing upper blocks, okay? And they're pulling their hand right back, and they think they're blocking with their hand. There is never a time that you block with your palm, ever.
Yeah.
Okay? You're striking with your palm, with the back end of your palm, or the side of your palm. Or when you block upwards, you're not doing anything because there's no one up there.
Yeah, right.
What you're doing is diverting that fist down the side of your arm.
Yeah.
And you're pulling your fingers back specifically to strengthen the sinews in that arm so the impact is better.
Yeah.
You don't want a sloppy, soft arm with a loose wrist impacting against something much more solid, coming at speed.
Yeah, and we will talk more about that when we talk about Feilungi next week, because that is done double.
That does, yeah.
Talk about the sickle kick, Steve. I mean, because not pertaining to the form, but just it was unusual kick, really, the sickle kick, wasn't it? And am I right in saying in the early days of Lauing competition, a lot of the old fighters sort of employed it? And because everyone thought they're going to kick with the right leg, so they block the left side of their face, right? So and then it comes around and hits them in the right side of their face, because it's kind of an inverted kick. Yeah, if that's the right word, it's like an inverted kick, and people kind of interpreted that kind of kick as like an axe kick kind of thing, or like a swinging kick. With a straight leg, but as isn't like that. A Lau Gar sickle kick is a flick, right? Now you can flick it up and you can hit with the ball of the foot, the toes, or the side of the foot, depending on the way you shape your foot, and depending on the target, of course. So it's open to interpretation in many ways, but the most important thing is protecting you first, and also when you do it without doing anything else, you must make sure you've got the protection of the hand, because it is going to kick outwards and it's going to leave your groin exposed, as most kicks will. So if you are kicking high, always cover your groin. Sure.
And the side of your face, that's otherwise not protected.
Well, you only know you're covered when you know you're open.
That's right. That's one of my sayings. You only know you're covered when you know you're open.
Right, and I think we'll leave it there, to be honest with you. Excellent. Thank you so much, Steve. Really, really appreciate that. Guys, we're going to shoot, because we are aware our podcast have been droning on a while. Hopefully you found something of value there. And guys, what I'd say to you is, please, if you enjoyed this, please go onto our Facebook pages, give us a like. Please go onto our YouTube site, follow us. If you've not already followed us on Podbean, please click follow. We want to get our profile up there if you enjoy this, just so many other people could try listening to us if you think it's of value.
And if you've got questions about specific techniques or specific parts of the forms or parts of the style, you can either video them and send them to us, like show them us, or send us the questions, explain them, and we'll try and do a video to demonstrate that specific movement. And then we can argue it.
But no one's going to ask you to go down in in Wounded Ma, are they, Steve?
They can ask me to go down. I can go down. It's getting up.
It's getting up.
It'll be a long video.
You just call it Chi Kung and wing it, guys. But please, if tell people about the podcast, because the more people listen to us, let's get this information out there. Let's get a little community going, and we can, really help improve ourselves. And that's you, me, Steve, everybody. Once again, thank you so much, people, for joining us on the Kung Fu Podcast. My name's James Still, and I'm joined with Steve Newby. And you're going to say goodbye?
Yeah, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Take care of yourselves. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Suma your little Beijing ass right now, man. I ain't scared of you. I know you know that little tricky shit. Come on.
Hi guys, thanks so much for joining us on the Kung Fu Podcast. If you like that and you want to find out more about us, you can head over to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or YouTube and find us under SJN Martial Arts. And also guys, this podcast is available on Podbean and iTunes. So until next time, take care of yourselves and we'll see you again on the Kung Fu Podcast.
Now, why doesn't somebody pull off 45 and bang, settle it?
No guns.